My 2,300 acres ended up sitting beneath an entire HOA. Then I sold the only entrance they had. They believed they controlled everything inside their neighborhood, but they had no idea who actually controlled the way in and out. My name is Ryan, and that land has been in my family for generations. It was never just property to me. It was a long-term investment, something meant to be held, not rushed. For years, most of it remained untouched. The land stretched across rolling hills, thick clusters of trees, and wide open ground. I never felt the need to develop it too quickly. I believed in patience, in waiting until the timing truly made sense. Eventually, development started creeping closer. New communities began forming along the edges of my land. I watched it happen, but I stayed patient. I had no interest in jumping in too early. Then one day, something unusual came up. A routine property survey led to a deeper review of my land. At first, it all seemed normal, just another check of boundaries and paperwork. But when the updated maps came back, everything shifted. Something didn't make sense. A large section of my land overlapped with a residential development, and not just a handful of homes. An entire HOA neighborhood was sitting on part of my property. That wasn't supposed to happen. I went back through the documents carefully. The ownership records were still in my name. There had been no legal transfer, no sale, no agreement of any kind. That left only one clear conclusion. That entire neighborhood had been built on land that still legally belonged to me. I didn't react right away. I understood this was bigger than a simple mistake. It required a calculated approach. This wasn't just about land anymore. It involved an entire community. I started pulling together every document I had, deeds, surveys, historical records. Everything pointed to the same truth. Legally, the land was still mine. Then I reached out to a lawyer. I needed clarity before making any moves. He reviewed everything in detail and gave me a direct answer. This is your land. They built on it without securing proper ownership. That confirmed everything. But more importantly, it revealed something else, an opportunity. I started to see where the real control actually was. I went back to the maps, this time focusing on access points. That's when it stood out. There was only one main entrance to the entire HOA, and it crossed directly through my land. That road didn't belong to them. It was part of my property. That's when it all became clear. I didn't need to fight over the houses. I just needed control over the entrance. Everything else would fall into place. Still, I didn't rush into confrontation. I wanted to fully understand the situation. I visited the entrance quietly, observing the flow of traffic. Residents moved in and out like nothing was wrong. They had no idea what was coming. I documented everything. Took photos, noted details. Every piece of information mattered now. Then I made my first move. I filed official notices asserting my property rights. Not to the residents, but directly to the HOA management. The response came quickly, exactly as expected. They denied everything, claiming confusion. But confusion doesn't stand up against documented proof, and I had all of it. I gave them time. Pressure works best when it builds gradually. While they reviewed the situation, I explored my options. I wasn't just looking for a solution. I was looking for leverage, and I had already found it. That entrance road was everything. Without it, the entire HOA stopped functioning. No deliveries, no services, no daily movement. Everything depended on that single access point. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to block the road. I was going to sell it, but not in a way they expected. I listed the entrance portion of the land legally and publicly. That immediately got their attention. Now, it wasn't just a disagreement. It was the risk of losing access entirely. The HOA reached out quickly. This time, they were serious. They asked to meet and discuss things directly. I agreed, but I wasn't there to negotiate from a weak position. I laid everything out, ownership documents, maps, legal standing. They saw the reality for themselves, and their tone shifted instantly. Now, they understood the position they were in, but by then it was already too late. The listing was active, and interest had started coming in. Investors recognized the opportunity immediately. Controlling the entrance to an entire neighborhood is a powerful position, and people were willing to pay for it. The HOA tried to slow things down. They asked me to pause the sale, but I had no reason to. They had already ignored my rights once. Now the situation had changed, and control was no longer theirs. Offers began coming in quickly, some even higher than expected. People understood the leverage involved. The HOA started to panic. Residents began hearing about the situation. Questions spread throughout the community. What would happen if someone else controlled the entrance? That uncertainty created pressure, and pressure forces decisions. The HOA came back with an offer. They wanted to buy the entrance themselves. But the situation had changed, so the price had changed. This wasn't just a piece of land anymore. It was control over their only access point. I didn't rush to accept. I let the tension grow. The more pressure they felt, the stronger my position became. They increased their offer. Then they increased it again. I still waited, because timing matters in situations like this. Eventually, I accepted a deal, but entirely on my terms. The price reflected the true value of control, not just the size of the land. Contracts were signed. Ownership was transferred officially. And just like that, everything changed. The HOA kept their entrance, but at a cost they never expected. And they learned a lesson they wouldn't forget. As for the rest of the land, that situation was handled separately. Proper agreements were put in place, and everything was made legal. The houses stayed where they were, but the ownership boundaries were corrected. This time, everything was properly documented. I didn't celebrate the deal, because it was never about winning. It was about understanding where the real power actually was. Sometimes, you don't need to control everything.